When a book transcends time and secures its place in the pantheon of universal literature, something special sets it apart. Such is the case with A Confederacy of Dunces, published posthumously in 1980 by John Kennedy Toole, a singular work that offers a hilarious, critical, and deeply human look at society, relationships, and institutions. This book is an irresistible combination of biting humor and tragedy, wrapped in a narrative that explores the folly and absurd logic of its characters, especially the unforgettable protagonist, Ignatius J. Reilly. A Confederacy of Dunces takes place in New Orleans, a city that John Kennedy Toole knew and captured with great precision, not only its geography but also its portrayal of its inhabitants. The story follows the misadventures of Ignatius J. Reilly, an eccentric, corpulent, and highly educated man who is simultaneously childish and lazy, whose life seems to be in constant contradiction with the reality around him. Ignatius lives with his mother, and after an incident involving a car that threatens their precarious financial stability, he is forced to find a job, a titanic task for someone who despises work itself and everything it represents. What follows is a series of absurd and comedic misadventures in which Ignatius becomes entangled, leading him to cross paths with a variety of colorful characters, each endowed with a unique and sometimes grotesque personality. As Ignatius bounces from one ridiculous job to another, his delusional behavior and intellectual arrogance create chaos around him. However, what might seem like a simple comedy of errors is actually a scathing social critique, where Toole takes the opportunity to comment on the decay of institutions, the ignorance of society, and the absurdities of the capitalist system. If anything elevates A Confederacy of Dunces to the status of a classic, it's the character of Ignatius J. Reilly. Through him, Toole presents us with a grotesque figure, pathetic and grandiose at the same time, who challenges all conventions of what it means to be a literary hero. Ignatius is a man in his 30s who refuses to conform to social norms. He is a self-proclaimed genius, a scholar who despises modern society, capitalism, and any form of authority, while preaching the values of medieval thought and theology. However, Ignatius is also, in many ways, a large child, dependent on his mother, socially inept, and incapable of facing the daily challenges any normal adult must confront. Ignatius's interaction with the world around him is both tragicomic and exasperating. While many of the characters around him struggle to survive, maintain relationships, or achieve their own goals, Ignatius navigates life with a unique brazenness, completely unaware of his own selfishness and contradictions. Yet, despite all his flaws, it's impossible not to feel a mix of compassion and fascination for him. Ignatius is an anti-hero who excels in failure. He is the grotesque reflection of a society where he simply doesn't fit. Alongside Ignatius, Toole creates a series of secondary characters who, though less visible, are equally memorable and significantly contribute to the tone and atmosphere of the novel. There's Ignatius's mother, Mrs. Reilly, who, despite her love for her son, begins to question her own life and her role as a protective mother. There are characters like Myrna Minkoff, an activist and Ignatius's ex-girlfriend, who represents a worldview completely opposite to his, and who occasionally reappears to challenge and criticize his ideas. Other characters, such as Officer Mancuso, the nightclub owner Darlene, and the prostitute Lana Lee, populate the surreal and caricatured landscape of New Orleans, each bringing their own dose of humor and desperation. A Confederacy of Dunces is, first and foremost, a social satire. Toole uses Ignatius as a lens through which we can observe the absurdities of modern life, bureaucracy, consumerism, work culture, and interpersonal relationships, but he does so with a prose rich in dark humor, creating situations that, while outrageous, deeply resonate with their underlying critique. Each of the novel's characters represents a facet of society that Toole expertly dissects. Although it appears to be a comedic work on the surface, the novel also has a tragic dimension. Ignatius, despite his ridiculous behavior, is also a victim of a society that neither understands nor accepts him. His inability to integrate into the world and his stubborn refusal to change reflect the struggle of many individuals who cannot find their place in the social order. In this sense, a Confederacy of Dunces becomes an exploration of isolation, alienation, and loneliness. The impact of A Confederacy of Dunces on literature is undeniable, and its publication is a touching story in itself. John Kennedy Toole wrote the novel in the 1960s but failed to get any publisher to accept it. Disillusioned, Toole took his own life in 1969, leaving his mother, Thelma Toole, with the task of fighting for her son's recognition. She eventually succeeded in getting the novel published in 1980, more than a decade after Toole's death, and the book went on to win the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction in 1981. This posthumous recognition not only validated Toole's talent, but also secured A Confederacy of Dunces a place in the canon of American literature. The novel has been praised for its originality, satirical tone, and sharp social critique. Additionally, it has been seen as a precursor to other books that explore eccentric and marginal characters with a comedic tone, paving the way for authors like David Foster Wallace and Jonathan Franzen. Recommending A Confederacy of Dunces is like inviting you to discover a literary universe where laughter and deep reflection are masterfully intertwined. Ignatius J. Reilly is one of those characters you won't easily forget. He will exasperate you, make you laugh out loud, and perhaps even make you reflect on the absurdities of everyday life. The novel is a vivid and satirical portrait of a society in conflict with its own follies, and it remains as relevant today as it was at the time of its publication. This is a book that every lover of great literature should read at least once in their lifetime. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and share this recommendation. Together, we form a community of readers united by the magic of reading and the adventure of discovering new stories. Thank you.